In this episode, it's all about horsepower. All right guys, in this video with our Project Camaro, it's all about power, starting with this Roto-Fab intake system. Now this Roto-Fab intake system was designed specifically for the new 6th gen Camaro, and this thing definitely produces power with this enlarged air box for a massive amount of air volume, going through this performance oiled filter and the enlarged piping. It's gonna be the first of many steps to be getting more power out of that 6.2 liter V8, so let's get started. Now with any performance modification, the first thing that we need to do is get this factory system out of our way. So I'm gonna start working on ripping all of this out, which is gonna require removing the airbox, the tubing, mass airflow sensor, and more importantly, getting rid of this stupid sound tube on this Camaro, which I just absolutely hate altogether. We have a sound tube delete kit with that intake. Let's get going. All right, first step to getting this airbox out and this entire intake system, getting everything disconnected, which is going to include the sound tube, the PCV valve, mass airflow sensor, and then we can start ripping out the airbox and the tubing. All right, now we can start getting some of these hose clamps loose, the throttle body. Next, over to the factory airbox. Now this can pop right off. Factory intake tube out. With all that out, we can remove the old factory airbox, which just requires a little tug, and it's out. Now, one of the great features of this intake room from Roto-Fab is the sound tube delete, which is this guy here. Now, as ridiculous as it is, I'm sure you guys know Ford does it with the Mustang, Chevy does it with the Camaro. This sound tube is designed to add engine noise inside of the cabin. If you ask me, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. This is why we're just getting the whole thing out of there and sealing it up and just omitting the entire sound tube. So if you are including or leaving the sound tube with your new intake install, you can leave it in place. For us, it's gotta go, so we're ripping it out. Now, if you notice, the factory sound tube runs all the way back to the firewall, and that's what gives you the added engine noise while you're driving. This whole tube, we're taking this right out, which is going to start with these Torx bolts. All right guys, so we've taken the bracket off here for the front of the sound tube. Now we're going to work our way back and take all these little rubber hangers off that holds it in place. We're not going to need these things anymore, so they can just be thrown out with the sound tube. Now, all the way in the back of the motor, by the firewall, you'll see that plate that holds the sound tube into the firewall, one 10mm bolt. That's gonna have to come out, and then we can rip the whole hose out. You know, it doesn't help that we just stopped driving the car. Everything is quite toasty under here. There we go. This thing is going in the garbage. Now, one of the crucial components that you need to swap over from the factory system is your mass airflow sensor. It's held in by a few Torx bolts. Just unbolt each one, and then we will install it into the new Roto-Fab intake tube. The other piece you're going to need from your stock system is this PCV reservoir. Now, we just need to undo this clamp, remove that, and this will go onto our new Roto-Fab hose. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is pre-assemble the airbox before it goes in the car, and that's going to include bolting up our mass airflow sensor tube, as well as this provided flange. Now you wanna take this tube, feed it through the inside of the airbox, and then on this flange, you're gonna notice that there's a writing top on the very top of it. Make sure this stays on top, but that it's facing the body of the airbox. With our mass airflow tube in place, most important piece, mass airflow sensor. This slides right in to the new tubing from Roto-Fab, and they include 2 Phillips head screws to make sure that it stays nice and secure. Now I want to assemble our new coupler with this really nice stainless steel hardware onto the end of our new mass airflow sensor tube. So that'll be all in place when we go to put it on the car. All right guys, with our airbox pre-assembled, we can actually get this installed into the car. Now, this simply installs by getting the dowels on the bottom lined up with the rubber grommets, as well as this ram air intake up front, and just giving her a shove down. There we go. Throttle body connected. Main tube is connected. Our PCV reservoir is all in place. Now, all we gotta do is tighten up all these clamps, connect this, and get our filter installed, and we're pretty much set to go. It's always nice to make sure you orient your hose clamps in a place that you can actually get to, if you do ever have to take this off. All right guys, one of the most important final pieces to the puzzle is performance air filter. Oh man, does that look good. Make sure to plug your mass airflow sensor back in, lock it down. All right guys, Roto-Fab intake is in and it looks great, but this is just step one of a two-step process. The next, we gotta tackle the exhaust in the car because we got air coming in, now we gotta get it out. So the whole purpose of this episode is to get our Camaro breathing better. We've got it done up front with our new Roto-Fab intake. Now, this massive suitcase of a stock muffler has gotta go. Let me show you what we're gonna bolt up. So this is what we're bolting up. This is MBRP's Installer Series axle-back exhaust for all 6th Gen Camaro V8s. Now this is a great kit and it's also incredibly affordable. It uses 3-inch diameter piping and mandrel bends for the highest exhaust flow possible. And it's also a straight-through muffler design with just the addition of these little resonators. Now, as you can see, MBRP includes everything you're gonna need within this kit to get it installed, including the brackets for the MPP exhaust valves if your Camaro is equipped with them. But what are we waiting for? Let's get this thing bolted up. So the first thing we gotta do is get this old, massive muffler supported, so when we do start taking it out, it's not just gonna fall on the floor. Now, this car here is actually equipped with the MPP exhaust valves, which means I want to go ahead and get these disconnected before we start messing with any hangers whatsoever. Now, to get up there, it's not the easiest, but you certainly can fit your hand up there to undo the locking clip, and then unplug the connector. Now, I'm using a straight edge here to make sure that I'm flush with the rear cross member, but in all honesty, guys, you can probably eyeball this and get really, really close. Now this muffler is held up by 4 hangers in the rear. 2 are pretty accessible right here. The other 2 are right behind the bumper cover that we can actually just unbolt the entire bracket. These, however, we're gonna slide the rubber off their mounts. It's always a nice idea to use some lubricant so it's not fighting you. And either with your bare hands or a pry bar, go ahead and work them out. Now it's also really important, once again, you support this muffler because now we're at the point where we're taking stuff off. She's gonna fall if she wants to. All right, those 2 are off. Now, like I said, guys, these 2 rear hangers are bolted in with 3 15mm nuts. It's honestly just easier to go ahead and just unbolt them than trying to fight with those rubber mounts up top. Now, I've got the luxury of an assistant and a tripod, so now with all the mounts gone and removed, we can go ahead and drop this muffler right out together nice and easy. Ready, Cody? Pull the back mount off the stud, and that's it. The next step is going to be removing the factory MPP exhaust valves. Now, these were an option on 6th Gen Camaros that allow you to change the sound of your Camaro with just the push of a button. Now, it's a great feature, but unfortunately, with our new MBRP system, we will not be able to utilize it. Now, they do provide you with brackets, so you can still mount them and have them plugged in. so you won't get a fault or warning on the dashboard. But unlike other costlier kits, you cannot utilize these with this system. So if that's a real big thing for you, I mean, there are a ton of other axle back exhaust systems on the market that will allow you to still utilize the MPP valves. But for us, we just want it loud, and it's gonna be loud. All right, so these are the new NPP valve actuator brackets that are included with the kit. Now, once again, guys, these are simply just going to have a place to mount these actuators so they can stay connected to the factory harness so you don't have a warning light of any kind, but they will not be functional on the MBRP Installer Series axle back. All right, next we're gonna mount our new brackets for our NPP valves. Take out these two little bolts for the heat shield, slide our new brackets in between the heat shield and the bumper cover, and then we can just reuse these factory bolts, and we're just gonna kind of sandwich it all together. All right, plug the connector in. We'll do the exact same thing on the opposite side. All right, so driver's side extension pipe. First, get your hose clamp on there. Don't forget that, because you'll end up putting it all together and then realize that you forgot it. And this pipe we're gonna kind of force on as much as we possibly can at the moment until we realize exactly where we have to line everything up. All right, next, tailpipe goes in, driver's side. Get your clamp on first. I like to leave everything loose so I can get everything situated first, exactly where I want it, and then go back and start cranking everything down. There she goes. All right, guys, so we pretty much got the driver's side all in place, but I'm leaving everything loose for now. I want to make sure I get this fitment exactly right before I go and crank everything all down. But now we can actually move over to the passenger side, do the exact same thing. Now, the exact fit I want for these pipings requires a little bit of effort in terms of just kind of pushing it up a little bit. So I'm just going to leave this post jack under here while I go down and crank all these down. Now we're going to tighten these all up pretty good, but then of course check it for leaks once we get it all done and it's running. But that is looking pretty solid if you ask me. All right, guys, extension pipes, tailpipes are in. Now it's time for the real shiny stuff. These beautiful, polished MBRP tips. These things are gorgeous looking. And I lowered it down just a little bit because I want to be able to see these guys so we can accurately level them out. All right, guys, this axle back from MBRP is installed. Let's see how it sounds. Guys, first impressions of our new mods: Roto-Fab intake system with sound tube delete and our MBRP Installer Series axle back exhaust. I just hit the road. Let's go ahead and see if we can open her up a little bit and start hearing this thing. Yeah, that sounds good. So far, exhaust is great. It's loud when you want it to be, when you put your right foot down, But if you're just cruising along, 6th gear, 60 miles an hour, it's nice and quiet. No crazy drone, nothing that's obnoxious about it. It's not gonna have your ears ringing, which is perfect for those of you that own a Camaro and you still daily drive the thing and you take it on road trips. You don't want it to be obnoxious. You want it to be livable and tame. This exhaust really is a perfect happy medium. I love it. Now the Roto-Fab intake, I'll be honest, I was hoping to see if we would get any of that awesome cold air intake whistle, but this thing seals so well to the underside of that hood, I don't hear a thing. We're probably getting more power out of it. I don't know if we are, because we really need to test it on a chassis dyno. I'm working off a butt dyno right now. But leave a bunch of comments for me to get a chassis dyno, because I would love to do that. Your comments may actually help me do so. But anyway, back to the intake. I'm sure we made a little bit of power out of it. I do feel that the car is a little bit more responsive, which that could certainly help with, just general throttle response. And it's a little bit cooler of a day today, and I definitely feel it. But overall, guys, these are two really basic mods that you can easily do yourself, and they're really the two perfect modifications to start with any build when you're looking for power. It's, you know, we're just barely scratching the surface here. Our Camaro project car is sounding rowdy, and I am so pleased with how this came out. This MBRP exhaust sounds fantastic, and it's really affordable, but we're not done with it yet. Now, if you really want to get the most bang for your buck in terms of performance, when you install your own intake and exhaust, the best thing to do is tune the car. And that's what we're going to be doing in the next episode. So, to make sure that you stay up to date with all of our Camaro updates, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and I will see you guys next time.